Second, please. We have problems of connection to internet. Now, 1 second.
We're live and alive.
Yeah, it's live. Yeah.
Namashreshtam manumapi sachiputram atrasvarupam rupam tasikrajam uruparim maturim kaustavatim radhakundam girivaram maho radhika matavasam prapto yasya parita kripaya shri gurum tam nadoti. We're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 25. The residents of Varanasi become Vaishnavas. Now the Madhya Lila is coming to an end. Kaviraj Goswami has covered the conversion of the Mayavad sannyasis from the Advaitin conception, impersonalist conception, to Bhakti. He's introduced their leader, Prakashananda Saraswati, to the Srimad Bhagavatam. And now he has begun his return journey to Jagannath Puri through the Jharikanda forest. The road, the path, the jungle path through which he through which he initially went to Vrindavan. And he's returning via the same path. And Kaviraj Goswami says, Jai Gurudev Ki Jai. Kaviraj Goswami says that when he's reached Jagannath Puri, so we reached that point. Yeah. Anyway, on his return through Jharikanda forest, all the same pastimes of affection with the animals picking up on Mahaprabhu's divinity and becoming affected, overcome by that Madhura Ras and their natural instincts of fear and aggression. So the tiger would be aggressive and the deer would be fearful. All of those animal instincts were overcome in the association of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And it is said even that they were prancing, jumping around under the influence of ecstatic love. And then Mahaprabhu arrives in Puri. He sends Balabhadra Bhattacharya ahead when they reach the famous, the Atharanala gate on the outskirts of Puri, like in the Puri district. And all the devotees come and meet him, and then he receives invitations for lunch from Gadadhar Pandit, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And then Kaviraj Goswami says, Eta kahilun prabhu deke Brindavan, puna karilena yaiche niladri gaman. Thus I have described how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Jagannath Puri from Vrindavan. Ihaye shraddha kari karaye shravana, achirat payase Chaitanya Charana. Whoever hears Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes with faith and love very soon attains the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Madhya Lila karilun e dig darashan, chayavatsara kaila yaiche gamana gaman. I have thus given a summary of the Madhya Lila, which is a special description of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's travels to and from Jagannath Puri. Indeed, the Lord travelled continuously to and fro for 6 years. First to South India, then up into Bengal to Ramkali, an aborted attempt to go to Vrindavan, back to Puri, then to Vrindavan via the Jharikanda forest and Varanasi, returning via the same way, spanning a total of 6 years. Pretty much 3 separate journeys spanning 6 years. Shesha Astadasha Vatsara Nila Chalevasa Bhaktagana Sange Kare Kirtana Vilasa. After taking sannyas at the age of 24, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived another 24 years. For 6 of these years, he travelled extensively throughout India, sometimes going to Jagannath Puri and sometimes leaving. After travelling for 6 years, the Lord fixed his residence at Jagannath Puri and stayed there for the remaining 18 years of his life. During these 18 years, he mainly chanted Hare Krishna with the devotees. Madhya Lila krama ebe kari anuvada kaile haya katara asvada. I shall now chronologically reassess the chapters of Madhya Lila so that one can relish the transcendental features of these topics. Pratama parichere shesha lilara sutragana tati madhye kona bagera vistara varnana. In the first chapter, I have given a synopsis of the last pastimes, Antya-lila. Within this chapter, there is a vivid description of some of the pastimes of the Lord that took place toward the end of his life. Dvitiya parichere prabhura pralapa varnana tati madhye nana bhavera digdarashana. In the second chapter, I have described Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's talking like a crazy man. Within this chapter, it is indicated how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifests his different emotional moods. So Kaviraj Goswami is summarizing the Madhya Lila, and he's just here touched on the content of the first 2 chapters of the Madhya Lila, which are actually part of the Antya Lila, as we've talked about before. So the ecstatic moods where Mahaprabhu appears completely crazy and his body is transforming in the most kind of bizarre ways. Sometimes his body is come as all the limbs are contracting. It's described that it becomes like a pumpkin, like a squash, because all the limbs are actually contracting into his torso. What?
Like a tortoise?
Like a tortoise, I guess. The limbs contract like a tortoise, I guess. And then sometimes his limbs would dislocate and elongate and go very long. And a host of other ecstatic symptoms. And talking like a crazy man in Radharani's mood of separation from Krishna. And so that this has been described in chapter 2. Mahaprabhu's ecstatic symptoms in the mood of Radharani's vipralamba bhav, separation, mood of separation from Krishna. Tritiya parichere prabhurav kahilun sanyasa acharyera gare yaiche karila vilasa. In the 3rd chapter, I have described the Lord's acceptance of the renounced order and how he enjoyed his pastimes in the house of Advaita Acharya. Chaturte madhava purira charitra asvadana gopalasta panakira churira varnana. In the 4th chapter, I have described Madhavendra Puri's installation of the Gopal deity, as well as Gopinath's stealing a pot of condensed milk at Ramuna. Panchame Shakshi Gopala Charitra Varnana Nityananda Kahe Prabhu Karena Asvadana. In the 5th chapter, I have narrated the story of Shakshi Gopal. Lord Nityananda Prabhu narrated this while Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu listened. Shashte Sarva Bhaumera Karila Udhara Saptame Tirtha Yatra Vasudeva Nistara. In the 6th chapter, I have told how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was delivered, and in the 7th chapter, I have described the Lord's tour of different holy places and his deliverance of Vasudeva. Astame Ramananda Samvada Vistara Apane Sunila Sarva Siddhantera Sara. In the 8th chapter, I have recorded the Lord's elaborate discussion with Ramananda Rai. The Lord personally listened as Ramananda gave the conclusive essence of all Vedic literatures. Navame kahilun dakshina tirtha brahmana dasame kahilun sarva Vaishnava Milana. In the 9th chapter, I have described the Lord's tour of South India and the different places of pilgrimage. In the 10th chapter, I have described the meeting of all the devotees of the Lord. Ekadase Shri Mandira Beda Sankirtan Dvadashe Gundicha Mandira Marjana Kshalan. In the 11th chapter I have described the great chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra that surrounded the Lord. In the 10th chapter I have given a narration of the cleansing and washing of the Gundicha temple. Trayodashe Rata Age Prabhuranartana Chaturdashe Hira Panchami Yatra Darasana. In the 13th chapter I have described Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing before the chariot of Jagannath. In the 14th chapter, there is an account of the Hira Panchami function. What is the Hira Panchami function? Anyone?
It's when Lakshmi Devi's servants go to Gundesh or to Vrindavan and they try to get Jagannath to come back.
Lakshmi Devi and her servants and her companions. Yeah. They emerge from the Jagannath temple in a very aggressive mood, insulting all of the servants of Jagannath, calling them all sorts of dirty names. Hira Panchami. It's on the 5th day, a couple of days after Rath Yatra. Taramadye Braja Devera Bhavera Shravana Swarupa Kahila Prabhu Kaila Ashvadana. Also in the 14th chapter, the emotional ecstasy of the gopis was described by Swarup Damodar and tasted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Panchadase Bhaktera Guna Srimukhe Kahila Sarvabhauma Gare Bhiksha Amoga Tarila. In the 15th chapter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu highly praised the qualities of his devotees and accepted lunch at the house of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. At that time, he delivered a moga. Sodashe Brindavana Yatra Gauda Deshapate Puna Nila Chali Aila Natashala Haite. In the 16th chapter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed for Vrindavan and journeyed through Bengal. He later returned to Jagannath Puri from Kanai Natashala. Saptadase Vanapate Mathura Gamana Astadase Brindavana Vihara Varnana. In the 17th chapter, I have described the Lord's journey through the great forest of Jarikanda and his arrival at Mathura. In the 18th chapter, there is a description of his tour of the forest of Vrindavan. Unavimse Mathura Haite Prayaga Gamana Taramadye Sri Rupere Shakti Sancharana. In the 19th chapter, the Lord returned to Prayag from Mathura and empowered Sri Rupa Goswami to spread devotional service. Vamsati Parichere Sanatanera Milana Taramadye Bhagavanera Swarupa Varnana. In the 20th chapter, the Lord's meeting with Sanatan is described. The Lord described the personal features of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in depth. Ekavimse Krishnaishwarya Madhurya Varnana Dvavimse Dvivida Sadhana Bhaktera Vivarana. In the 21st chapter, there is a description of the Krishna's beauty and opulence, and in the 22nd chapter, there is a description of the twofold discharge of devotional service. Trayovimse Prema Bhakti Rasera Katana Chaturvimse Atmarama Slokarta Varnana. In the 23rd chapter, there is a description of the mellows of transcendental loving service. And in the 24th chapter, the Lord analyzes the Atmaram verse. Panchavamse Kasi Vasire Vaishnava Karana Kasi Haite Puna Nila Chale Agamana. In the 25th chapter, there is a description of how the residents of Varanasi were converted to Vaishnavism. The Lord also returned to Nilachala from Varanasi. Pamsha vimsati parichede e kailun anuvada yahara shravane haya grantarta asvada. I have thus summarized these pastimes in the 25th chapter. Hearing this, one can understand the whole purport of the scripture. Understand the whole content of the book. Sankshepe kahilun e Madhya Lila rasara koti grante varnana nayaya ihara vistara. I have now summarized the entire subject matter of the Madhya Lila. These pastimes cannot be described elaborately, even in 10 million, even in millions of books. Jiva nistarite Prabhu Brahmila deshe deshe apane ashvari bhakti karila prakashe. To deliver all fallen souls, the Lord travelled from country to country. He personally tasted the transcendental pleasure of devotional service, and he simultaneously spread the cult of devotion everywhere. Mahaprabhu was tasting it internally and spreading it externally. It's known as Antaranga and Bahiranga. Bahiranga, the external objective, spreading Krishna consciousness, and Antaranga, the internal objective of tasting Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna. Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Prema Tattva, Sara, Bhava Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Lila Tattva, Ara. Krishna consciousness means understanding the truth of Krishna, the truth of devotional service, the truth of love of Godhead, the truth of emotional ecstasy, and the truth of transcendental mallow, and the truth of the pastimes of the Lord. All these tattvas. Shri Bhagavata Tattva Rasa Karila Prachare Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Janaila Samsare. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has personally preached the transcendental truths and mallows of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are identical. For Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound incarnation of Krishna.
What's happening when you've done that?
There's just a waft of smell that's kind of so funny coming from somewhere.
Not from the flower.
Bhakta lage vistarila apana vadane kahan bhakta mukhe kahe sunila apane. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu broadcast the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. He sometimes spoke for the benefit of his devotees, and sometimes empowered one of his devotees to speak while he listened. Sri Chaitanya Sama Ara Kripalu Vadanya Bhakta Vatsala Na Deke Trijagate Anya. All sane men within these three worlds certainly accept the conclusion that no one is more merciful and magnanimous than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that no one is as kind to his devotees. Shraddhakari Elila Suna Bhakta Gana Ihara Prasade Paiva Chaitanya Charana. All devotees should hear about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes with faith and love. By the grace of the Lord, one can thus attain shelter at his lotus feet. Ihara Prasade Paiva Krishna Tattvasara Sarva Shastra Siddhantera Ihan Paiva Pada. By understanding the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can understand the truth about Krishna. By understanding Krishna, one can understand the limit of all knowledge described in various revealed scriptures. Krishna Lila Amrita Sara Tarasata Satadara Dasha Dike Vahe Yahaite Se Chaitanya Lila Haya Sarovara Akshaya Manohamsa Charaha Tahate. The pastimes of Lord Krishna are the essence of all nectar. They flow in hundreds of rivulets and in all directions. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are an eternal reservoir, and one is advised to let his mind swim like a swan on this transcendental lake. Bhaktagana Suna Moda Dainya Vachana Toma Sabara Paraduli Angevi Bhushana Kare Ketchumuni Karon Nivedana. With all humility, I submit myself to the lotus feet of all you devotees, taking the dust from your feet as my bodily ornaments. Now, my dear devotees, please hear one more thing from me. Krishna Bhakti Siddhanta Gana yate prafula padmavana, tada madhu kari asvadana, premarasa kumudavane, prafulita ratridine, tate charo mano bringagana. Devotional service to Krishna is exactly like a pleasing, jubilant forest of lotus flowers wherein there is ample honey. I request everyone to taste this honey. If all mental speculators bring the bees of their minds into this forest of lotus flowers and jubilantly enjoy ecstatic love of Krishna day and night, their mental speculation will be completely, transcendently satisfied. Nana bhavera bhakta gana, hamsa chakravaka gana, yate sabe karena vihara. Krishna kele sumrinala yaha pai sarvakala, bhakta hamsa karaye ahara. The devotees who have a relationship with Krishna are like the swans and chakravaka birds that play in the forest of lotus flowers. The buds of those flowers are the pastimes of Krishna, and they are edibles for the swan-like devotees. Lord Krishna is always engaged in his transcendental pastimes. Therefore, the devotees following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can always eat those lotus buds, for they are the pastimes of the Lord. Almost finished. Jai Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Se sarovare giha hamsa chakravakahana saratahan karaha vilasa kandibe sakala dukha paipa paramasukha anayase haibe premalasa. All the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should go to that lake, and remaining always under the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, become swans and chakravaka birds in those celestial waters. They should go on rendering service to Lord Sri Krishna and enjoy life perpetually. In this way, all miseries will be diminished and devotees will attain great happiness. There will be jubilant love of God. E amrita anukshana saru mahanta meghagana vishvadyane kare vareshana tate phale amrita phala bhakta kaya nirantara tada seshi jiye jagajana. The devotees who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu take the responsibility for distributing nectarian devotional service all over the world. They are like clouds pouring water on the ground that nourishes the fruit of love of Godhead in this world. The devotees eat that fruit to their heart's content, and whatever remnants they leave are eaten by the general populace. Thus they live happily. Chaitanya Lila Amrita Pura, Krishna Lila Sukar Pura, Duhe mili haya samudurya, saru guru prasade, tahaye ashvare, se jane madhurya prachurya. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are full of nectar, and the pastimes of Lord Krishna are like camphor. When one mixes these, they taste very sweet. By the mercy of the pure devotees, whoever tastes them can understand the depths of that sweetness. Ye lila amrita vine kaya yada anapane tabe bhaktera durbala jivana yada eka bindu pane upulita tanumane hase gaya karaye nartana. Men become strong and stout by eating sufficient grains, but the devotee who simply eats ordinary grains but does not taste the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna gradually becomes weak and falls down from the transcendental position. However, if one drinks but a drop of the nectar of Krishna's pastimes, his body and mind begin to bloom, and he begins to laugh, sing, and dance.
Prabhu, just a question about something you said much before. What is that pastime related to Lakshmi 5 days after the Ratha Yatra?
It's 5 days. It's Hira Panchami, so it's the 5th day of the well, it would be waxing moon, and Rath Yatra is the 2nd day. Rath Yatra is Vaishak Posh. I forget. Posh, the month of Posh. I think. Anyway, the month that Ratha Yatra is in. Ratha Yatra is Dvitiya Titi, the second day. So Panchami is the 5th. So it's 3 days after. So there's Ratha Yatra, and then Jagannath is taken to, symbolically, to Vrindavan. And because Jagannath is also Vaikunta, or Dwaka, Krishna, so Lakshmi Devi is there. So what happens is that when Krishna is dragged by Radharani back to Vrindavan, which is the inner reality of Rath Yatra, is Radharani and her friends, the gopis, dragging Krishna from, say, from Dwaka or from Kurukshetra, where they meet him, where he's no longer a cowherd boy, but he's become a royal. He's a king now with his entourage, with his wealth and grandeur. And so they meet Krishna in Kurukshetra on the occasion of a solar eclipse, when people would go to Kurukshetra for the solar eclipse rituals. So the gopis meet Krishna there. And it's the same Krishna, but the mood is completely different. There's a mood of grandeur and opulence. And so this Madhura Ras cannot flourish in that environment. So they're wanting to drag Krishna back to Vrindavan, where the loving Madhura, the Sringara, like the romantic love, can be expressed, and the simplicity and sweetness of Vrindavan. So that's Rath Yatra. They're dragging Krishna from Dwaka or Kurukshetra back to Vrindavan. So they pull, the Rath Yatra carts are pulled down the Grand Road in Puri to this Jagannath Ballabha Gardens, which are considered Vrindavan. And Jagannath resides there for some time. In that area, there's a temple there known as the Gundicha. The gardens around it, Jagannath Vallabha Gardens. And because of this, Lakshmi Devi is feeling, what's the word? She is feeling that she's been abandoned by her consort, Jagannath. He's left her to go with the gopis. So she gets furious.
Once he arrived in Vrindavan.
Yeah. So she comes out of the Jagannath temple. So Jagannath, on the pretext of maybe on the pretext of being sick or something, he leaves. But anyway, she discovers, the idea is that she has been abandoned by Jagannath. She feels abandoned and wants to take revenge. Wants to punish him. So the festival of Hira Panchami, 3 days after Rath Yatra, 3 days after, is when Lakshmi Devi and her servants, companions, female companions, emerge from the Jagannath temple in a very fiery mood, angry, and they are insulting and abusing all the servants of the temple in this demonstration of this Leela. So you have someone dressed up as Lakshmi Devi and her companions, and they are insulting and abusing the servants of Jagannath. And, sorry?
Why suddenly we speak about Lakshmi Devi?
Sorry?
Why do we suddenly speak about Lakshmi Devi while we were talking about Shraddha?
Because Lakshmi Devi is representative of Krishna's consort. Lakshmi Devi is Krishna's consort in the Aishwarya mood. So the queens of Dwaka, etc., all expansions of Lakshmi Devi. So Lakshmi Devi is Krishna's consort, you could say, in Vaikunta. The moods below Vrindavan, the Aishwarya means grandeur and opulence. So Krishna's consort in Vrindavan in the Madhura Rasa is Srimati Radharani. But when there's no Madhura Ras, or when the Madhura, not when there's no Madhura Ras, but when the Madhura Ras is not as developed as it is in Vrindavan, you get this idea of Parakya and Svakya. But without going into that, when the Madhura Ras is slightly less developed, then the epitome of love expressed by Radharani is not there. So the form of Krishna's consort also changes along with Krishna's form. So you get the Vishnu form or the Narayan form, and you have a consort, Lakshmi Devi, that matches that form.
So it's the equivalent of Radharani, but in that mood.
Yeah. All of these forms are considered expansions of Srimati Radharani. So the highest expression of rasa comes from Srimati Radharani. And lower expressions of rasa, i.e. the lower expressions of Madhura Rasa, they are embodied by the expansions of Radharani, such as Lakshmi Devi, the queens of Dwarka.
In this case, she was fed with
So what
anger,
happens?
Anger and revenge. That was her.
Yeah. So what happens is, as explained, Krishna is pulled back to Vrindavan by the gopis. And Lakshmi Devi, who is living with Krishna, i.e. Jagannath, in the temple, she feels hard done by and wants to take revenge. So, in a vindictive, spiteful mood, she emerges to chastise Jagannath and all Jagannath's servants. That's what she does. So she comes out of the temple and is abusing all of the pandas, the servants of the temple, using very foul language. This is a pastime. It's described earlier in the Madhya Lila, during probably during the chapter called the Veda Kirtan pastimes of Mahaprabhu.
Thank you so much.
Is it clear now, or not clear? Still not clear or clear? Halfway in between.
And he went. Krishna went to Vrindavan.
Krishna goes, the Rath Yatra festival. It's just, the carts are taken maybe a mile down the road from the Jagannath temple to another temple called the Gundicha temple at the other end of the road. Mm-hmm. And that is considered symbolic of the gopis meeting Krishna in Kurukshetra 5,000 years before and wanting to pull him back on a chariot to Vrindavan. So going from the opulence, the mood, the rasa of Aishwarya, grandeur, opulence, royalty, back to Vrindavan where they can express the simplicity and the sweet mood of love that can only flourish in Vrindavan. That's the Krishna they want. But Lakshmi Devi, Krishna is not without his queens when he's a royal. So if he's pulled back to Vrindavan, then the queens aren't going with him.
Okay.
So Lakshmi Devi is feeling hurt as a result of that. So she emerges from the temple feeling abandoned by her husband.
From the first temple.
Yes.
The temple he is leaving. I thought she was in the...
No. She doesn't go to Vrindavan.
Yeah, that's what I didn't understand. Okay.
She can't go to Vrindavan. She's on the outskirts praying to be able to enter.
Vaikuntha cannot go into Vrindavan, of course not.
No, it's
So-
clear. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's just a detail I was missing.
Yeah, now it makes sense then. Yeah, good.
In the first temple, yeah.
Yeah, the first temple, the Jagannath temple, from which Jagannath initially emerges, where Jagannath resides.
Yeah.
So that's the Hira Panchami
Thank
festival.
you so much.
So we have another final few verses of the Madhya Lila. Ayamrita karapana yara samanahiyana chite kare sudrida vishvasa na parakutar kagate amedya karkashav avarte yate padile haya sarvanasa. The readers should relish this wonderful nectar because nothing compares to it. Keeping their faith firmly fixed within their minds, they should be careful not to fall into the pit of false arguments or the whirlpools of unfortunate situations. If one falls into such positions, he is finished. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Advaitari Bhakta Brinda Arayata Shrota Bhakta Gana Toma Sabhara Sri Charana Kare Shire Vibhushana Yaha Haite Abhishta Purana. In conclusion, I submit to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, and all the other devotees and readers that I accept your lotus feet as the helmet on my head. In this way, all my purposes will be served. Shri Rupa Sanatana Raghunatha Jiva Charana Shire Dare Yara Karon Asa Krishna Lilamritan Vita Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahi Kichudina Krishna Dasa. Taking the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, and Sri Jiva Goswami on my head, I always desire their mercy. Thus I, Krishna Das, humbly try to describe the nectar of the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which are mixed with the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Sriman Madana Gopala Govinda Deva Tushtaye Chaitanya Pritam Astvetach Chaitanya Charitamritam. For the satisfaction of Sri Madan Gopal and Sri Govinda Dev, we pray that this book, Chaitanya Charitamrita, may be offered to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Tadidam atirahasyam gora lilamritam yat kala samudaya koler nadritam ter alabhyam kshatir iham ihaka me svaditam yat samantat sahridaya sumanubir madam esham tanoti. The Chaitanya Charitamrita pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu constitute a very secret literature. It is the life and soul of all devotees. Those who are not fit to relish this literature, who are envious like hogs and pigs, will certainly not adore it. However, this will not harm my attempt. These pastimes of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will certainly please all saintly people who have clear hearts. They will certainly enjoy it. We wish that this will enhance their enjoyment more and more. End of Madhya Lila. Jai Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki jai. Tomorrow we begin Antya Lila. Final pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Reading from Revealed Truth by Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev-Goswami Maharaj. Service beyond surrender. In his conversation with Ramananda Rai, in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected the famous verse from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadaman Parityajya Mamikam Sharanam Raja. In Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explained to Arjuna many things on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. For our benefit, he explained Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Abhyasa Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and so on. Then at the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, Sarvadaman Parityajya Mamikam Sharanam Raja. Aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma suchaha. You must avoid non-religion and religion also. Exclusively take shelter at my lotus feet. If any sinful reactions come to you, I will take care of them. Have no fear. This is the first and main task of our spiritual life. If we can take shelter at Krishna's lotus feet, then Krishna will fully take our charge. Everyone generally thinks that this is the supreme, conclusive verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu summarily rejects this verse, we are confused. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy about the ultimate goal of life, and step by step, Ramananda Roy offered progressive conclusions. Varnashram Dham, Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti, and so on. Mahaprabhu summarily rejected them all, including the celebrated verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Savadaman Parityajya. Who can explain the cause of this? Only an expert like Guru Maharaj. I once asked Guru Maharaj, why did Mahaprabhu summarily reject this verse? Srila Guru Maharaj explained. This verse advises one to take shelter at Krishna's lotus feet. Up to this point, it is a very nice advice. But what will one do once one has surrendered to Krishna's lotus feet? That is not explained in this verse. Mahaprabhu taught exclusive devotion, surrendered life with service. But in this verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, there is no explanation of how to lead a life of service. For that reason, Mahaprabhu rejected it. It explains surrender, but not the next step. And of course, the next verse, which always comes next, Yane prayasam udapasya namanta eva. Oh, look at this. We have a joiner. Jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiya vartam. Stane stita shrutikatam tanuvan manobhir. Ye prayaso chitachito prasitais trilokyam.
I don't know that one. I've heard it a lot before, but I don't know.
You know Sarvadaman Parityajya?
Yes.
Oh, great, thanks.
The page is joined.
Yeah. No, it's not. Actually, oops. Yeah. Alright, that's it. Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev-Goswami Maharaj Guru Deva Ki Jai. Who's singing today?
I can see. Sorry for the delay. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha.
Hari Haraye Rama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopala Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudana. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra. Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunatha. Sri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das Raghunatha. Savara
Shri Guru Ram Sundar Rajagiri Haji Ki
Jai.
Jai Sundar Govinda Dev-Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Lokak Shri Hare Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Shri Bhagavan Bhakti Sari Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Guru Bhagi Ki Jai. Namacharya Sahara Thakur Ki Jai. Namacharya Ki Jai. Jai Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Jai Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Shri Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanande.
Haribo.